In the last devlog, my first area's combat went through a lot. We got 2 new enemies, the ability to parry, and a brand new boss. But it needs more stuff. Literally, it just needs more stuff. Besides the tile set and the background, there's no other environment art in the exploration areas, which is a problem. And unfortunately, it's not as simple as just placing a bunch of sprites. Because the exploration areas are procedurally generated, they're a little trickier to decorate. It's basically like trying to give someone instructions on how to decorate a house that you don't know what the floor plan is or even necessarily what the furniture will be. So, how do we deal with that? I'm Dryden Thomas, and we are 14 days into my 100-day challenge to finish Disinherited, a side-scrolling roguelike where you descend into Death's domain to kill Death and gain eternal life, all to spite your father who cut you out of his will. So there are a couple ways to approach this procedural decorations problem. First, you could come up with an elaborate set of rules on how to fill blank space based on the shape that it takes. This seems really attractive to me because in theory, you could create a super abstract algorithm that just knows what to do with anything it's given. It could look at a tall strip of space and say, hey, let's put a hanging decoration in there. It could look at a long stretch of flat ground and say, yeah, something big and kind of lumpy would probably go good here. It seems possible, but it's a massive task too. The potential for bugs or annoying edge cases or results that just kind of look bad are everywhere. Another solution would be to separate everything out into pre-packaged, pre-planned, pre-decorated rooms and then glue them together based on their exit points. I'm pretty sure this is the approach that Dead Cells and Rogue Legacy 2 take. The benefit here is that these rooms are reliably nice to look at. The downside is that they are very reliable. If you replay these games as much as I have, then you start to recognize the rooms as they show up, and it can take away some of the appeal, even if the enemies and the rewards are different. To combat that, you have to create a lot of rooms, and every room has to be handcrafted, so that's a lot of work. I'm trying a third approach, and because I've never seen how anybody does this on the back end, I'm pretty much making it up as I go. So it may just utterly fall apart in public for all of you to see. But at least a potential train wreck is interesting to watch, right? So let me walk you through it. Fair warning that we're gonna get a little bit technical here, but I promise to keep it light and accessible and explain everything that I say. So right now, I have these 16 by 16 chunks of grid that are, at this point, pretty well tested. Unlike that second week at the competition where I trapped dual-wielded in a box at the bottom of the catacombs. Every chunk of tile can open to every other, and they're all perfectly traversable in every direction. My tile map constructor randomly chooses from them, puts them down, fills in the outer edges, and creates the entry and exit points. Then, there's something called a rule tile that changes the look of each square based on where the empty space is around it. Basically, you give the rule tile a bunch of instructions about which version of the tile to display, and after catching about 13,500 mistakes and redrawing the tiles over and over again, you hopefully have something that makes some visual sense. I hadn't actually ever drawn a tile set before Disinherited, so yeah, it took a few tries, and there's still a lot more that I'd like to be able to do with them. So far, so good. At that point, I realized that you can actually put whatever information you want inside of a tile itself. So I could draw this skull tile, call it an enemy spawner tile, and have my tile map constructor replace those tiles with randomly chosen enemies. I did the same exact thing with this power-up spawner. So this week I thought, well, let's extend that further to add decorations. So the first thing I had to do was create some decorations to add. I duplicated the canvas with the tile set and started drawing some stuff around it. Having those tiles here helped me make sure that everything was fitting within the general color palette and that the line weights would look cohesive. The grid lines keep the sizes of the decorations measurable too, which we're gonna need later. Also, put a pin in that leafy thing, we're gonna come back to it. By the end, I had some statues, gravestones, fences, piles of skulls, some wooden boxes, and a big casket. Next step, I imported it into the engine and sliced it up. Then I brought each item into a scene, created a component where I could input its measurements, and then saved each decoration as a prefab. That's basically just an easy format so that Unity can make a copy of it from anywhere. I gathered all the prefabs into something I called a decorations library, which essentially automatically sorts the decorations by size. The procedural generator can then reference that while decorating the catacombs. Last, I created some more spawner tiles, numbered by dimensions so I could tell them apart. Then I went through all my tile chunks and added decorations in a way that I thought might make visual sense. Did it work? Yeah. Check it out. We definitely have some more variety here, and it's not so dry to look at anymore. Plus, some of the decorations I've made destructible, like these boxes. Just a little something extra to play with and even get some light and currency from during a run. I do want some more types of decor in here though. I'm thinking cobwebs hanging from the ceiling, maybe prefabs with layers of decorations so there could be a fence in front and a pile of bones behind, that sort of thing. I'd love to hear your ideas on that front. As a side note, all the feedback you gave on that last devlog was completely phenomenal. Both in terms of quantity and quality. I have never experienced anything like that. It's given me a lot to think about and a lot that I'm excited to implement already. So here are a few new mechanics and things that I'm currently workshopping. Some have said that Samuel's jump looked floaty, so I'm experimenting with a higher overall gravity for him and a faster spring to his leap. I've also increased his base move speed by 33% and sped up his dodge roll animation. You get less horizontal movement out of it and fewer iframes, but it also feels more controlled. I also replaced his catch VFX particles with something closer to what I originally envisioned. Not a single person has made this comparison yet, but my original inspiration for Samuel's catch ability comes from my many hours of playing Villager in Super Smash Bros. There's something so appealing to me about playing this cute little character that can just catch a fully charged Samus shot and put it in their pocket, and then pull it out even stronger when they least expect it. I think of this new effect as a little homage to that. It's still a work in progress, but it's getting there. There are also now these falling spike traps that double as caving in floors. They also triple, I guess, as footstools, and theoretically you could push them off of a cliff onto an enemy. When you walk under them, they fall pretty slowly, but if they hit you, it's pretty bad. And then we've got these growths. I was thinking about more ways to differentiate between projectiles, and simultaneously looking for more ways to create interesting situations in the explore area. So I implemented this new system where an attack can deal different types of damage, and attack targets can have different types of resistances. These here are called bone wheat. They don't take any damage from bludgeoning, like your staff, but a sickle will slash them right up. Obviously we need some VFX here, but you get the idea, and it functions. And it's going to be yet another small source of decision making. For example, you might think twice about throwing that sickle that you've got, because what if you run into some bone wheat, and there's a rare relic on the other side? By the way, let's come on over to the relic corner. I got to design 2 new ones this week. Remember Aegis Helia from the last devlog? That shield that gives you damage reduction based on how bright your lantern is? Well, now it has a sibling, Aegis Luna. This one gives you damage reduction based on how dark your lantern is. Another relic from this week is Arachne's Cloak. This was an idea from a friend from weeks ago. While wearing this, rolling through projectiles catches them if your hand is empty. It should feel pretty slick. I'm not totally sold on the art though, so let me know what you think. Last thing, as the prophecy foretold in the last video, our new boss's room is looking a lot more homey. Welcome to Guillaume's new lair. It's got everything. Bones, Gothic archways, a giant tombstone, bones, a coffin, bones. There are a few more things to add, like the doors that close behind you, and I think it could use a few bones, but it's coming along and getting pretty close. I haven't gotten to make any more changes on Guillaume himself yet, like adding new attacks or new animations or VFX or anything like that, but somebody did compare him to Squidward the other day, and now I can't stop seeing it. I also got a pretty strong start on his boss music, but I'm gonna have to wait till next devlog for that because things got out of hand really quickly. So subscribe if you want to see that. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. And it could use a few more bones, and it could use a few bones. And I think it could use a few bones. And I think it could use a few bones. Bones. And I think it could use a few bones. 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 And I think it could use a few